You're listening to theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
Hi there and welcome to this special podcast brought to you by the Ordnance Survey Outdoor Show. Yes, the NEC near Birmingham once again hosts this great event on March the 16th, 17th and 18th. And if you have even the slightest interest in anything outdoors, it is the place to make contacts, see new products and generally rub shoulders with like-minded outdoors people. In this podcast, I'm going to be chatting to a few exhibitors about some of the new 2008 products which will be on preview display, including a company who is launching a new recycling program we can all get involved in. As usual, there will be several theatres, which of course are all free. The main World Theatre and the North Face Experience, to name but two. And we'll also be having a sneak preview from two adventurers who will be presenting some exciting material there. Also, later on in the show, we'll be giving you an opportunity to win a pair of tickets to give you free entry on any day to the outdoor show, thanks to Ordnance Survey. Now, obviously, every year a show like this has to evolve, reflecting consumer trends and so on. So first I thought I would catch up with organiser Kate Thomas and find out how the feedback from last year's show affects this year's content.
Well, the feedback from last year's show was pretty positive, actually. People really enjoyed the speaker program that we had in our theatres and the variety of the features that we had at the show. There was a bit of feedback from visitors saying they didn't think there was enough brands there and new products. So that's something that we've really sort of taken on board for 2007, which sort of brings us nicely to talk about the brand showcase.
Excellent. And what is this all about?
Well, the brand showcase is all about new gear, exciting innovations and sort of new products. It's basically a platform for brands to show off their best and latest products. We have 12 companies there this year, including Patagonia, Sprayway, Berghaus, Low Alpine, Asolo, loads of them. And they take a small sort of boutique-type booth to show off their latest products, and then they get their products within fashion shows and within gear workshops, where we've got Graham Thompson Trails Gear Guide, a gear guru, talking about lots of different different aspects of gear and all sorts of things that you need to know.
So how are you running then? Is it like a fashion show with the catwalk and he's describing the technical aspects of the products, or is it slightly different to that?
It's slightly different to that. We've got 4 fashion shows each day, which shows the products, and we've got professional models doing the catwalks and everything like that with a bit of dancing, so it should be quite good fun. And also, the other good thing about the fashion shows is that after each fashion show, we're actually giving away the product. So up to £300 worth of gear of one of the brands that are represented in the brand showcase will be giving away some fantastic stuff. So that's worth going for, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And then we've got 5 sessions each day run by Graham, which cover topics such as getting the right rucksacks, getting the right sort of fitting them properly, footwear, what you should be looking for different types of activity. Then also how to look after your gear, because we find that a lot of people buy all this stuff, but they don't really know how to take good care of it to get the best out of their products. So there's stuff on that, and also lots of stuff on new innovations and new products that are on the market.
Excellent. Well, I know from last year a lot of people were still slightly confused about which shows they need to get booking tickets for, or to put their names on a list. So can you just explain how it works for all the different sort of presentation areas you've got?
Okay, well, all areas are free. Once you get into the show, everything that you can go to is totally free. The only thing that you do have to get a separate ticket for is the World Theatre. Now, there's a ticket office that's located at the back of Hall 1 near the entrance to the World Theatre, where you can go and collect a ticket. And basically, you just have to get there early to pick them up. And the way that those tickets are being distributed is that the sessions that are in the morning are available from 9 o'clock or from the time the show opens, because the show opens at 10 on Friday. And then the shows that are after midday, they will be available after midday. So you need to get onto the ticket office and queue there and pick up your ticket, and the first 600 people get their tickets.
Excellent. I noticed that there's more emphasis on survival and sort of wilderness camps, and you've got Ray Mears coming down as well. So what can people see? What can people come and see, and can they actually get to interact with Ray Mears at all?
Well, Ray Mears is doing a talk on Saturday morning in the World Theatre at 10 o'clock. So you can, so obviously the first 600 people that get down there can come and see him talk, and there does do question and answer sessions as well. Then there's the Wilderness Camp. That's sort of located near the World Theatre, where people can sort of get back to basics. We've got Bushcraft Magazine and Girl Guiding there, who are sort of showing you how you would be able to survive in the wilderness and what skills you'd need, and sort of also talking about conservation issues as well, which are quite key at the moment. Ray Mears will also be doing book signings on the Blackwell book stand, as well as some of the other speakers, including Bill Oddie and Brian Blessed as well. So there's lots of opportunities to meet the celebrities as well as come and be inspired by them.
Yeah, fantastic. It must be a fairly tough life for them, actually, because I presume they get mobbed sometimes when they come to do presentations like this.
Yeah, I think, some more than others, and some surprisingly more than others, actually. Some people that you'd think would get mobbed don't, and vice versa. Brian Blessed absolutely loves it. The most public attention, he seems to sort of thrive on it, whereas I think Ray Mears is a bit more of a private person and, likes things a bit more contained. So, yes, it is a sort of difficult job for us to manage that for them.
I noticed Ben Fogle came and went last year, and I didn't see many women swooning, so I'm not too sure where he was.
No, actually, that was one of the surprising ones. Michaela Strachan had a lot more of a appeal, I think, but Ben, our audience is more male than it is female. So no, Ben didn't have much of an entourage, really, much of a groupies.
Interesting. So, I noticed you've got the Arctic Foxes coming as well.
Yes, they're going to be doing a stint in the BMC Summit Theatre, which is great. It's good to have some girls coming to the show and shouting about what they're doing. Actually, one thing that we're sort of looking at is to try and find more women who are going to be doing more active stuff for 2008, really. We want to see more women in the World Theatre. We want to see them find out what they're doing and all sorts of things like that.
Yeah, I remember the lady I interviewed last year about her Arctic experiences, but she was very quietly spoken. She wasn't I don't think the women push the PR as much as the men, do they? No,
they don't really. It's a shame because, it would be great to have some real sort of inspirational women out there. But no, I think, more sort of quietly rather than in your face.
Yeah, definitely. And I noticed Colin Pryor, the fantastic photographer, he's coming as well. So is he going to give people sort of hints and tips on how to get the best from their gear, do you think?
Yeah. We've got some great sessions, actually. In the Regatta Perfect Spot this year, it's really sort of focused on photography and photography workshops. Colin's doing a few, and we've got some representatives from Olympus cameras that are there doing a few workshops. And the great thing about Colin's is that we're producing about 12 of his prints, quite large, not, sort of on sort of nice boards around the theatre, and we're actually doing a blind auction for those to raise money for Rally International, which is Regatta's charity. So people will be able to see Colin, get loads of tips, and then walk away with some of his great images. Oh,
fantastic! They certainly are spectacular when they're blown up. They're incredible pictures.
Yeah, they are.
I noticed last year there was a tendency. The show seemed to be going down a sort of more adventure travel route. Is that a trend that you're seeing in the industry?
Well, it is, to be honest. I mean, quite a few of the brands are sort of doing more of adventure travel ranges, with North Face being one that springs to mind. But the adventure travel section of the show has sort of grown very naturally by itself. It's actually we've moved that into Hall 2 this year, and it's quite a bit larger than it has been before. And the content for the Adventure Travel Theatre it's a lot more diverse and quite exciting topics there. But it seems to come one in itself. All the people that come to the show want to do their activities, and why not do it somewhere a bit hotter or even a bit colder, depending on who you are and what you want to do. Yeah, no, it's a great area, actually.
Great, and of course yourself, Kate, have you now lashed out after last year and bought a tent and gone and camped somewhere quiet?
I haven't been camping, but I've been mountain biking. I'm buying myself a tent this year because I've got a few camping trips planned for this summer. But no, mountain biking is my newfound
Your new
activity.
Your new passion.
Yes, I
Great.
love it. Yeah.
Just out of interest, you yourself, obviously you spend a lot of time preparing for the show and putting it all together. Do you actually get any time at all to sit back at the show and absorb any of the talks at all?
To be honest, I've hardly actually had time to go around and do anything, or I've never even listened to one of the lectures, actually, but it's something that I promised myself I'm going to do this year. So I've got to buy myself a tent, and I've got to listen to at least 2 lectures. And that's the minimum. I'm going to see if I've got a great team this year, so hopefully I won't be quite so busy as I have been in previous years.
At the brand showcase, you'll also see the latest designs from Columbia, Regatta, Vaude, Rab, Berghaus, Paramo, Low Alpine, Aslo, Patagonia, Technicals and Sprayway, who are showing their exciting forthcoming range of wearable electronics. So I thought I'd ask Nick Purcell from Sprayway if this meant that the next generation of outdoor clothing from them would make us look a little bit like RoboCop.
Well, hopefully not. No, it's going to be much more sophisticated than that. Our products, they're based on, one's a PTT jacket, which push-to-talk is an integrated radio collar with a speaker and mic unit, which allows you to kind of just clasp in one hand whilst you're on the go. And our wearable electronics iPod jacket, Lyric and Opus, just has an on-sleeve control, so you can sort of meld into the background without looking, as you say, like RoboCop. In your outdoor gear, it's quite important to us that it isn't really obvious that the technology is integrated, just because it's something that people are concerned about, looking too overly flash or outdoors, and hopefully we've risen to that challenge appropriately.
The clothing itself then, presumably, I mean, the clothing itself has to be durable and waterproof and obviously perform a function. But when you start mixing electronics with it and wires and cabling or however you've connected the various bits together, how have you really tested these items sort of under duress? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, it's about being credible outerwear. So it has to be breathable, it has to be waterproof, just as we would make any other jacket. Our testing team varies. We've used various sort of people within our athlete team, and retailers and customers alike. We don't tend to restrict it to any one group of people because they all have their unique and different viewpoints. You'd be unlikely to get a sponsored athlete to tell you about the appearance of a product as much as a consumer would, and a consumer wouldn't have the kind of level of rigorous testing that you'd expect an athlete to have. So it's something that our design team take very seriously, that products tested to its full capacity. Yeah.
And what about the actual practicalities of connecting to the host machine, be it an iPod or a phone or whatever? Presumably there's so many different types of models on the marketplace that is there an adapter that makes one jacket fit all types of models?
Our iPod jacket is the technology provided by Fibertronics, who have an iPod license. So our product is specifically for use with the iPod, but I think it's fair to say that that's certainly the sort of the predominant MP3 player that people are familiar with, and that's kind of who we're targeting with that product.
Well, this fashion show then, are you the first sort of first company to manufacturers to actually could do a complete range and present it in such a way?
Well, not that there have been various companies who have dabbled with iPod integrated products in the past. For us, it's more about bringing it to a mass market, a consumer. I think possibly people have been put off by price points in the past. We're certainly hoping to open that up to more accessible areas, and whether it be outdoor, whether it be a price point that, whereas 2-3 years ago it was just basically product that was there to prove that people could make it. We're actually hoping it will be commercially successful and that people will enjoy using their products in this context, because certainly it's been a more exclusive element of the outdoor, even fashion set. People with basically too much money and not enough sense who've been able to afford it in the past. So now it really is within the reach of everyone.
Fantastic. What about the practicalities of things like actually washing the clothing? I mean, what about how does the electronics stand up to that?
Indeed, yeah. The electronics are removable. There's one sleeve piece in the iPod jacket that remains in situ, and it's fully designed to do so. So you only have to remove one very short basic lead from the interior pocket. And the same with the push-to-talk module as well. You remove your radio, and the push-to-talk module slides out of the centre front, and then the product's just as a normal product would be. You can treat it the same way with regards to washing and treating and restoring the fabric qualities. So it's not difficult. I can do it. Anyone can do it, basically.
Is this the first fashion show of its kind you've attended?
Largely, yeah. For consumers to see products in this setting so far in advance, it is quite different. I'm only aware that the trade shows that are only open to trade do this kind of thing. So I think that's quite nice as well. It's not commercially available, but hopefully if people push for the products, then the demand will be such that they will go into production and people can order just as they would, but albeit with a slight lead time.
So it really is an exclusive preview then? I thought these were things about to hit the street.
No, I mean, this is winter '07 for us, so it really is a proper exclusive. We're probably the company who's giving someone the greatest, or the general public, the greatest insight to development products. Obviously, they're kind of signed off and sealed and delivered now, but it won't actually be available commercially until winter '07. Wow,
okay, so very quickly then, what's the range you're actually going to be showing?
The products are the push-to-talk jackets. There's two. There's a man's and a lady's, and they are Icefall and Convect. And the iPod jacket is Lyric and Melody, and they're available, as I said, various colourways, various sizes, as you'd expect. And these are both within different ranges. One's a mountain trek range for the PTT, and the Lifewear range accommodates the iPod jacket, which has more subtle styling, slightly more street look. So they sort of sit in their respective ranges. And of course the full range has different pieces throughout it as well, and we'll be representing the most exciting pieces that we have to offer at the NEC Outdoor Show. Fantastic. And what sort of price point do they end up, do you think these are going to be? The suggested retail price for Zenith is £260, as it is for the ladies' piece. And the iPod jacket retails at £180. Current suggested retail price. So they really have come down since their first inception stage, haven't they now? Massively, yeah. I mean, the push-to-talk jacket is top end for the top of the mountain. We don't envisage there's a huge market for it, but it's a full Gore-Tex Pro Shell piece too, so you're really getting a lot of jacket for your money there.
Another company with plenty to talk about is Patagonia, who are introducing something quite important to the outdoors community, as well as hitting the catwalk, as Jonathan Petty explains.
Well, what we're going to be really focusing on is all our sort of new Spring 08 collection, of which the highlights are our new Capitoline base layer programme. That's all made from recycled polyester, and that's the key message that we'll be pushing out at the show, is our use of recycled or natural fibres in all our sort of outdoor products. So things like organic cotton, base layers, fleece, as much as we can use recycled and natural fibres.
So I presume that recycled products are not necessarily dull colours. They're quite bright, specific colours, aren't they?
Yeah, it doesn't actually impact on how you dye the products. It's the actual, the raw materials, whether it's cotton or hemp or polyester, is the same. You can still then use, choose whichever dyes you want to use. So yeah, we've got lots of colours, and in fact that's why many people like Patagonia, because we do have lots of colours, and we don't have boring colours. We normally have got some pretty wacky colours.
Fantastic. So quickly then, just give us an idea of what people will see, the actual full range.
Well, they're going to see all our technical clothing. Our background is a climbing and mountaineering company, so we'll have all our technical shells, soft shells, fleece and base layers, so people can see, full layering system out from the mountains. We'll then have our rock climbing for men range. We've also got a climbing and yoga range for women, lots of nice organic cotton, halter neck tops and shorts. And we've then also got a lifestyle collection, which is ranged from T-shirts and also travel collection. So we're trying to show people that we can kit them out for whatever outdoor activity they like, whether it's climbing or travel or just a bit of outdoor lifestyle products.
Are they fun to do, these fashion shows? Are you looking forward to it?
It's great, actually. It makes a very pleasant change from a trade show. So it's great because you get to meet the consumer, and lots of people like Patagonia and are very passionate about the brand. So it's nice to be able to actually see those people. Normally I don't get to see them. I normally see the retail buyers, the shop buyers. So if anything, our experience from the London ski show was great vibe, and everybody really liked the fashion show. So, really looking forward to it.
Excellent. I noticed that you've now widened the recycling program to accept other Polartec branded fleeces. So tell us a bit more about the recycling program, the concept behind it.
Yeah, well, in very simple terms, Patagonia's long-term goal is to be completely responsible for all the products which we make and the processes which go into that. So we already use, for example, recycled paper for all our catalogues. We use wind turbines for our distribution centres, all that kind of thing. We've been using recycled polyester in some of our fleeces for 15 years now. But the long-term goal is for everything to be recycled and for us to be responsible for those what we make, rather than what people don't realise is that most outdoor products are made from polyester and nylon. Those all come from oil, which is obviously a natural resource, and we want to minimise that impact. So moving forward, that is what we're trying to do, and the recycling program means that we can now use we can recycle any Polartec products. And
how do people get sort of the full details of where they can take their products or send them to?
Well, it's very simple. They can either send us directly by going onto the Patagonia website. They can send us any old Polartec fleece and we'll recycle it. Or they can take it to Patagonia dealers. Again, those are in our catalogue or on our website. You can go to your local Patagonia dealer, and most of them have actually got a recycling bin. We've given them a recycling bin, and you can put your old Capline or old Polartec fleeces in that. And once it's full, they just close the dealer closes the lid, sends it to us, and we send it off to get recycled. It's as simple as that.
It's a fantastic ethos. What sort of uptake have you had of it so far?
Well, so far, our actual retail dealers have been very excited, and most of them have got on board with the programme. And it's a question of whether the consumer gets behind it or not. Obviously, on a wider scale, recycling, climate change is on the agenda. It's trying to make people think about what they can practically do, and that's what we really want to try and push. So this is a very new campaign. We're launching this right now. We launched it this month. We've got press releases going out as we speak. So hopefully, consumers will see this, and that's the key message we'll push at the show, and hopefully, consumers will drive it. We can't make them do it. We're just trying to give people the choice that we make recycled products, and you can also recycle them rather than buying a new garment which has been made from virgin polyester, which comes from oil. Why not recycle? Why not do that? It's easy to do. So hopefully people will get on board with it.
So, don't forget you can win a lot of goodies at the Brand Showcase, so worth dropping by sometime during your visit. There's various theatres, as previously mentioned, and you now know how to grab a ticket to get a seat. In the North Face Experience Theatre, there are various North Face sponsored climbers and adventurers, one of which is Baz Roberts, whose CV reads like a boy's own action hero. I was curious to see how he had achieved so much so young.
Well, I had an early start. I was inspired in the outdoors, well, from a very early age, camping with the family in Canada where I grew up. But the real sort of step forward was when I was 15. I did a 6-week outward bound course in North Ontario. So that was pretty roughy, toughy. Only a third of us who started it finished it. And I learned how to canoe. I learned about first aid, which developed my interest into a business, and did my first expedition, a 10-day canoe trip to the salt water of James Bay, up one of the big rivers in North Ontario.
So from late teens then through to early 20s, did you stay in Canada and sort of hone your skills there, or did you go further afield?
Yeah, no, I stayed in Canada, but I moved west, to the Rockies, because my real love was, my real desire was to get into mountaineering. So when I was 19, I moved to the Rockies, on the back of teaching canoeing, which is a skill I'd, trained up as an instructor at. And on the back of that, got a job in the Rockies. Met some mountain folk, and they took me under their wing, as mountain folk do. Took me into the mountains, sort of had my apprenticeship there. And then when I was 23, I did my first expedition. I went to Nepal, climbed my first 6,000-meter peak.
And was that as part of a large crew, or did you do that independently?
No, it was two. It was me and a mate. But in fact, he cracked his leg very early on the journey, so he went home, and so I went up into the Everest region. This little peak was, in fact, one of the peaks that Hillary and the guys climbed initially on oxygen, funny enough, to test their oxygen systems in 1953. This 6,000-meter mountain called Island Peak behind Everest. And I went up there anyway, and I found myself a local Sherpa, one of the mountain men, and then together we just went up illegally. And my dad snuck around the back of the mountain, didn't have a permit, that sort of thing. Went and climbed the mountain, and then went home.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful sentence, just tossed there slightly to one side, just popped up there and then went home again.
Well, I think it took another week or two to walk out. And then I went down to India to check out New Delhi for a little bit. I got horribly ill, completely ran out of money, flew back to Toronto via New York. Had to change airports in New York from JFK to LaGuardia. Didn't have enough money for the transit bus. Sat on the bus anyway and pleaded poverty to the bus driver. Said I just basically want to go home. And he sort of looked at my quite gaunt frame that I had lost 25 pounds on that particular trip in 2 months. Partly from the exercise and partly from being ill in that last sort of week or so. And this very, very kind New Yorker let me ride his bus for free, and I got on my connecting flight home to see my parents.
Wow. Well, we obviously like dallying around with circumstances like this, because I realised that you recently were playing with a polar bear, which took a dislike to you. Yes,
well, I mean, I'm a great animal lover, but I usually like to keep them at a bit of a distance. And curiously, with all my experience in the Canadian Rockies, I've never had a dangerous bear encounter. We were always very, very careful and very bear aware, as we say. And that was my second trip to Greenland a year ago. And on the first trip, we were very much more coastal up a glacier on one of the islands, where we might have expected to see bears. But on this last trip, we were much more inland, about 60 kilometers inland, 2,000 meters above sea level in the highest mountains of the Arctic on the east coast of Greenland. And the last thing we expected to see was another living creature, aside from a few birds. I don't think we actually saw any birds on that trip, because this was only the second sport expedition that had been allowed into the mountains in winter by the Danish Polar Center, who administered expedition permits for Greenland. And yeah, we were caught very much unawares, not in our pajamas, I might say. Some of the press who picked up the story said that we were surprised in our tents at night in our pajamas as this bear kind of marauded into our camp. Of course, we weren't wearing pajamas. We were pretty bundled up. It was minus 25 degrees Celsius. It was about midnight. Someone heard some funny footprints, looked outside the tent, and sure enough, a polar bear had found us somehow and decided to slash a few tents open.
And how do you scare off a polar bear?
Well, he stuck his nose in my tent.
So the smell was enough, was it?
It must have been. I know. Yeah, so I threw some old pants at him. Didn't have any effect. Yeah. Well, if you have time to prepare, then you get your flares out, you get some noisemakers, a rifle if you've got one. But this just completely caught us by surprise, and so I just grabbed what I had to hand, which were basically my pots and pans and cooking equipment at the front of the tent, and just threw them at him. Screamed abuse, hurled, waved my arms, and basically just tried to gain the initiative, if you like, because he clearly wasn't coming, to come and eat me, straight out. He was curious. He was trying to figure out what I was, and I thought, no, I better give him pause for thought.
Wow. Well, you're described as a passionate skier, mountaineer, skydiver, diver, paraglider pilot, writer and aspiring adventure filmmaker. Yeah. And of course you're now recently a father. Now, of all those things, which is your biggest passion?
It's my baby, I guess. That's just, being a father's just been fantastic. It really has started to put some of my other experiences in perspective in terms of this, the constant joy. So much of mountaineering particularly is just all misery, there's particularly, like, say, on Everest, 3 years ago, 2 months of really misery for, half an hour of pure joy on the summit. It's not a very good ratio. But, I keep going back, so there must be something mentally wrong with me. But babies give you more constant joy, as you're probably aware. But aside from that, skiing is my real great love. Because it involves the mountains, it involves going up them, it goes, across them, down them, exploring, fabulous, new, beautiful places. It's crisp and cold. I hate the festering sort of heat and bugs of the jungle. So it's a pristine environment. It's fun. It's exploratory. It's occasionally edgy and a little bit dangerous. But particularly if you cross the mountains, you just get rewarded with these new vistas, new peaks, and you look around and you just can't stop dreaming about which face to go and climb and ski, and which peak to ascend next. So I find that a particularly inspiring environment.
You're doing a presentation at the Outdoor Show at the NEC shortly. What can people expect to see? Because obviously you've got lots of stories to tell, and what have you actually condensed into the presentation? Yes,
well, I've sort of said that over the last sort of 3 years I've had quite a number of hospital visits, having injured myself and flogged myself off cliffs and that sort of thing. So again, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I'm going to recount. The last 3 years particularly have been quite busy. I've been involved in 5 major expeditions, 2 of those to 8,000-meter peaks, including Everest, 2 to Greenland, including the polar bear trip. So I'm going to give people a bit of a romp through the last 3 years, some of the highs and lows, and I've got some fabulous video footage that I took, on the summit of Everest, and I filmed a lot of the last Greenland trip where we made the first winter ascent, the highest peak of the Arctic in winter. Then I paraglided off it, and then we got attacked by the polar bear. So that was a pretty eventful trip. I'm just going to give people a bit of an insight into what it's like to live, to live and work in those particular environments, and why we do it. The age-old question of, why. Share some of the emotional, sort of roller coaster moments, particularly on Everest. And really just treat people to quite a visual feast of fantastic mountain environment.
Another North Face climber is Mick Fowler, once voted the Mountaineer's Mountaineer. He has 30 years' worth of stories and adventures under his belt, along with many climbing firsts. At the show, he's doing a talk entitled China's Secrets Revealed, and sharing with his audience his excitement about the Virgin Mountains of China and the new climbing possibilities slowly being presented there.
It's really that more and more people are realising the huge mountaineering potential in the east of Tibet, where the Himalayan plateau breaks up to the east. There's been an increasing number of photographs published of the mountains, and an increasing realization that there are some exceptionally spectacular unclimbed objectives in this part of the world. And in a world where the number of unclimbed objectives is always reducing, it's a source of great excitement amongst mountaineers when an area which has really been more or less off limits for many, many years gradually opens up, and there's a chance of gaining access and climbing some of these spectacular unclimbed mountains.
China itself and the 6,000 metre peaks, how many are we actually talking about throughout China?
I don't know throughout China as a whole, but there are quite a lot of 6,000 metre peaks which may be unclimbed but are basically rather boring, sort of rounded lumps, whereas the mountains in this particular range called the Nyankintangla East, which are not the easiest to pronounce, but they are particularly noteworthy because they are so spectacular. There are very, very few mountain ranges in the world that have got similarly spectacular peaks. So, for example, several of them have been compared to the Matterhorn in the European Alps, simply because they are so eye-catching and so inspiring for mountaineers.
So there's a bit of a buzz going around the climbing world then about these barriers opening up, a bit like it was back in when the Matterhorn started to be climbed sort of on a regular basis.
Well, and in fact, it's more of a buzz than that, really, because these mountains are unclimbed. So, there's no question of them being climbed on a regular basis. It's really the equivalent of, say, turning the clock back to the mid-1800s, when the sort of Alpine Club gentlemen in Britain were going out to the European Alps and making the first ascents of the spectacular peaks out there. The Matterhorn as a prime example. That's exactly the situation that we now have in the east of Tibet, that it's possible to get out there and climb one of these peaks and get back within about a month, which is probably the same sort of time scale that in Victorian days it would take the pioneers to get out from Britain and out to the Alps and back. So it's a very, very exciting time.
Aren't the Chinese themselves interested in climbing? Have they got much of a climbing fraternity at all?
Traditionally, the Chinese have really only been interested in the 8,000 metre peaks, Everest and the like. They have, I think it's a cultural difference that they have not really shown hardly any interest in the sort of sub 7,000 metre peaks. But things are changing. I think obviously the whole Chinese society is changing. The Chinese have more free time, and more of them are looking to mountaineering in the same way that the Western mountaineers approach it. So, for example, there are outdoor magazines that are now being published in Beijing, which are very much beginning to focus attention on these unclimbed mountains in eastern Tibet. And with so many million people in China, and with the circulation of these magazines increasing hugely, it seems to me that it's only a matter of time before the Chinese focus their attention on these mountains, and then 150 unclimbed mountains can be climbed within a year or two. So now is the time to go.
Yeah, excellent.
That's what's so exciting.
And is this the type of information, I presume with some video clips or whatever, you'll be talking about and showing at the seminar?
That's right. I will be talking about 3 of my trips to East Tibet and to Sichuan, which is all of this area which has globally been called the Alps of Tibet. So I'll be talking about one expedition in 2002, and another one in 2004, and one in 2005.
China's obviously had a reputation as being quite a sort of politically sensitive area to have access to, and with the doors opening, I'm sure they're opening very slowly at the moment. What it's actually like to practically trying to get into China and do some of these peaks in that area as well as further afield?
That varies depending on which part of China you're climbing in. So, for example, areas such as Sichuan are relatively straightforward. Areas such as East Tibet are more difficult, and there it's necessary to go through a body called the China Tibet Mountaineering Association, who coordinate all of the various permits that are necessary to visit restricted areas of Tibet. And there is a lot of bureaucracy behind the scenes. When we last went, we had 9 separate permits, and that includes permits from bureaucrats in Beijing, from the local police chiefs, from the local army commanders. There's an awful lot of paperwork that has to be done beforehand, but the vast majority of that paperwork is done by the China Tibet Mountaineering Association in exchange for a fee.
Lovely. Okay, well, and if I was coming to the seminar, which days are you going to be there?
I'm there on both Saturday and Sunday. I think one day is a 1-hour presentation and the other one is a 45-minute presentation.
Well, that's just some of the entertainment and attractions at the Ordnance Survey Outdoor Show at the NEC Birmingham on the 16th, 17th and 18th of March. And I haven't even touched on the climbing area, the bike arena, the dive centre, the travel sections, plus, of course, lots of goodies and bargains scattered throughout the show. Doors open at Friday 10 till 6, Saturday 9 till 6 and Sunday 9 till 5. Tickets on the door are £14 for adults, children at £8 and under 5s free. Full details and various savings can be found on the website, which is www.theoutdoorshow.co.uk. However, here's a chance to win a pair of tickets to get you in free on any day. It's a simple competition and it goes like this. All you have to do is call our message line service and complete this sentence. I love podcasts on the Outdoor Station because... and then add some fun, humorous, witty comment to make us all smile. The first 20 people to do so will get a free pair of tickets, and I'll include the best and funniest recordings within the programmes we'll be making while we're at the show. The number to call, which is standard UK rates and free if you're a Skype user, is
020 8133 9434.
Just leave your comments nice and clearly, plus your contact details and address, and within days you could be the proud owner of a pair of tickets. So once again, the sentence to complete is I love podcasts on the Outdoor Station because... and the number to ring is
020 8133 9434.
Well, that's about it from me. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and if you don't make it to the NEC, keep visiting our website to hear some of the highlights in our next podcast.
Find out how easy it is to subscribe to all our free programmes. Visit our website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk.